ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදීත් IDD calls ගන්න SLT phone එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Making headlines here at First at 9. Cabinet uncertainty. Sri Lanka Freedom Party boycotts the weekly cabinet meeting. Speculations rife over a cabinet reshuffle. Where's the mandate? The opposition leader presses to finalise the new constitution, while Elia questions its alleged public mandate.
UMP in its election manifesto has mentioned that when they come to power that they will change the constitution, but they did not get a sufficient number of seats to form a government.
How can it be? Secretary to the Ministry of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure perplexed on Sri Lanka's low ranking in ease of doing business.
So this seems to be a paradox. So a lot of global indices show that we are in a better position.
Ring of Glory. Sri Lanka guaranteed a medal in boxing after 68 years in the Commonwealth Games, but will have to wait to see its colour. Facing the music. Facebook Supremo Mark Zuckerberg meets US lawmakers and tells that it should have done more to prevent the data misuse. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanayaka. There are political developments galore, but first we start with the latest on the Kandy unrest. 16 suspects arrested over the violent incidents in Teldiniya and Digana in Kandy were ordered to be remanded until the 23rd of April. The order was given today by the Teldiniya District Court. Among the remanded is the leader of the so-called group Mahasohon Balakaya, Amit Veerasinghe. Meanwhile, 2 serving corporals of the army were also arrested yesterday in connection with the recent Kandy unrest. Now, moving on to other stories, ministers representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party boycotted today's cabinet meeting. The decision was taken when the Central Working Committee of the SLFP convened last evening.
The Central Working Committee of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party convened last night under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena at his official residence. A lengthy discussion followed on whether SLFP would remain in the national government or not, and on the request to oust the SLFP ministers who voted against the Prime Minister during the vote of no confidence. Minister Andra Priyadarshana Yapa had tabled a proposal at the Working Committee which would see the withdrawal of ministers who voted against the Premier from their posts, which Minister S.P. Dissanayake had seconded. However, since some members of the Central Working Committee disagreed with the proposal, a decision on the withdrawal of ministers who voted against the Prime Minister from the government was not arrived at. In the meantime, the view was expressed at the meeting that the entire Sri Lanka Freedom Party should withdraw from the government and not just the 16 members who voted against the Prime Minister. Faced with the prospect, President Maithripala Sirisena had said both General Secretaries of the UPFA and the SLFP should pay attention to the matter, and all 41 ministers and parliamentarians of the SLFP should arrive at a unanimous decision on the issue. Accordingly, SLFP's Central Working Committee decided to convene once again tomorrow. During the meeting, it was also decided that ministers of the SLFP would refrain from attending the cabinet meeting today until the relevant decision is made. Following the Central Working Committee meeting, none of its members were forthcoming with comments to media. With today's cabinet meeting being conducted without the participation of 13 ministers of the SLFP, political sources say that a cabinet member of the United National Front allegedly had some strong words on the plight of the country, calling on the president to not let the country be unstable. In response, the president had allegedly said that a cabinet reshuffle will be done before the 13th. Meanwhile, General Secretary of the UPFA, Minister Mahinda Amaravira, expressed views on the issue at a media briefing held today.
The Central Working Committee of the SLFP decided not to participate in the cabinet meeting today. What we want is to move forward as a team. We hope to work together, although that means we lose our positions. The stance of the President also is to move forward as a team. The Central Working Committee will be convened if necessary. If not, the parliamentary group can make a decision as well. A cabinet reshuffle will take place for sure.
කැබිනට් සංශෝධනයක් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
මම හිතන්නේ ඔය කරුණු කාරණා සියල්ලක්ම අධිකරු ජනාධිපතිතුමයි කරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමයි ඉදිරි දින කිහිපය තුළ සාකච්ඡා කරලා ඔය කරුණු ටික නිරාකරණය කරගනි.
එතුමාලා නාවා කියලා
Although they didn't attend the meeting, we didn't neglect making decisions. We are ready to work with whoever that will stay with the President in moving forward with the government. The President needs to do the cabinet reshuffle before the Sinhala and Tamil New Year.
කොමාර සිංහල අවුරුදු ඉස්සලා ජනාධිපතිතුමාට ඕනකම තියෙනවා කැබිනට් සංශෝධනය කරලා ඉවරයි. සම්පූර්ණ සංශෝධනයක් නැත්නම් පොඩි එකක්ද? නෑ ලොකු සම්පූර්ණ සංශෝධනයක්.
ඒකේ නැවතුමද SLP ඇමතුරු ආපු නැති එක දැන් මොකද ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් නේද මේක? ආණ්ඩුව ගෙනියන්න. ආණ්ඩුව ගෙනියන්න ඉතින් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ ඉතින්.
In the meantime, speaking to the BBC's Sinhala service, prior to yesterday's Central Working Committee meeting of the SLFP, State Minister Lakshman Yapabewardene said that the ministers who voted against the Prime Minister will withdraw from the government before the 19th of this month. Speaking to other Derana, the ministers said that they handed over a letter to the President requesting permission to step down from their positions, and once they get permission, they will act as parliamentarians of the opposition.
In the meantime, the move by ministers of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party to boycott the cabinet meeting today was very much the talking point in the political arena. Some took the opportunity to call for a general election. Half of the cabinet boycotted it today. In such a scenario, we request the government to call for an election without making the country anarchic. We like to move forward with those we can work without any issues. Some said they would not vote against it and we can work with them. The President said the same. We don't ask for all 16 of them to be considered the same. There are a few who disrupted the government's journey from the beginning. The two main parties of the government should come to a conclusion on it. If they are to attempt and defeat the government of good governance, they don't have an ethical right to be in it anymore. Please leave. If not, be chased away. The UNP is in chaos. SLFP is also in chaos. To get rid of these issues, we should expel the UNP from the government. We recently raised our voice on the restructuring of the party. Let's see how that will be done and also see whether they are necessary or unnecessary changes. 16 seek to withdraw from the government, but the General Secretaries of the SLFP and the UPFA are against withdrawing from the government. Even cabinet ministers are on strike. Retired Rear Admiral Sarath Weerasekara alleges that there is a conditional agreement between Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and the leader of the Tamil National Alliance, R. Sambandhan. He charges that the alleged agreement translates to 10 conditions which have to be met by the government, including a new constitution. Addressing a media briefing convened by the organisation LA in Colombo today, former Rear Admiral Weerasekara said that the public did not give a mandate for a new constitution.
The Prime Minister has accepted 10 conditions submitted by the Tamil National Alliance, the leader, Mr. Sambandhan. So now he says that the constitution has to be amended. And Mr. Sumandiran, the member of parliament, he has said that the government has a mandate to change the constitution. But the government doesn't have a mandate to change the constitution because in any of the election manifesto of the People's Alliance had never mentioned about changing the constitution. Only the UMP in its election manifesto has mentioned that when they come to power that they will change the constitution, but they did not get enough the sufficient number of seats to form a government. So therefore the public has never given a mandate for the present government to change the constitution. And also he has said that he has agreed to release some of the lands that are now occupied by the army. So I think that is something to do with the national security, and national securities should be discussed at the Security Council, not in the Parliament, not at the whims and fancies of the TNA leader. It has to be, if at all land has to be released, it has to be released after a careful security study.
Now, in the meantime, the opposition and Tamil National Alliance leader R. Sambandhan stresses the need to finalise the new constitution, adding that it is not just a problem of the Tamil community, but one of the entire nation. The opposition leader made the remark while addressing media personnel yesterday in Trincomalee. This is an issue of the country and not an issue of the Tamil community. Everyone who live in this country have this issue. Solutions should be provided to the issues in the country, and this issue has been dragging on for around 70 years. We have been told in Parliament about a new constitution. A lot of work has already been completed in that process. We should complete the rest of the work as well. We're trying to do it in Parliament. It should happen since the entire country needs it. Without a new constitution, the country will be ruined. Now moving on with other local stories, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa highlights the government's failure to complete the Daduroya water supply project as the cause for losses incurred by farmers in the Western Province. The former head of state was speaking on the matter following a meeting with a group of farmers who visited him at Carlton House in Tangol today.
A group of farmers who are beneficiaries of the Daduroya water project in the Western Province visited former President Mahinda Rajapaksa today to extend their greetings for the looming Sinhala and Tamil New Year.
Even though these farmers have water, there's been a delay in supplying water for tanks in the area as the construction of the Daduroya water supply project is incomplete. This is a huge loss for them. It is our hope that this project is completed so the entire northwestern province will have a proper water supply. This project is long overdue. The Moragahakanda reservoir, which we started, is now finally complete, but we got to know that the northern province is yet to benefit from this project. The custodian of the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Devalaya, D.P. Kumarage, has been temporarily suspended from his position for a period of 3 months. The Minister of Buddha Sasana, Gamini Javikrama Pereira, said that the suspension came into effect due to ongoing investigations against him. Dilruwan Rajapaksa has been appointed to temporarily oversee the duties. Minister of Buddha Sasana added that 16 petitions have been filed against D.P. Kumarage, one of which relates to the tense situation which occurred last year when he reportedly refused to hand over keys to the Devalaya to the shaman for religious observances. He was also accused of being involved in an incident where 20 kilograms of venison was discovered at the Kadavara Devalaya. Now, the Department of Excise in a statement says that all liquor shops and bars will be kept closed on the 13th and 14th of April due to Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Now, meanwhile, elsewhere, 3 persons died in an accident involving a three-wheeler in the area of Thundeniya in Gampala this evening. 1 more person was admitted to hospital with injuries. Now let's take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
3 members of the same family perished in a fire which erupted at a house in the area of Rajavalley in Digana. The charred remains of the father and his 2 children were discovered on their bed by a neighbour this morning. The All Island Cigarette Tobacco Barn Owners Association today handed over an epistle to the Colombo branch of the World Health Organization. They call on the WHO to lift the ban on tobacco until such time an alternative is introduced. A 3-wheeler drivers union and the Ceylon Motorcyclists Association handed over an epistle to the Indian High Commission in Colombo. It was in protest of vehicles known as quadricycles imported from India.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Secretary to the Ministry of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure, Vasantha Deshapriya, calls it paradoxical that Sri Lanka is ranked 111th out of 190 countries in the Ease of Doing Business Index, as the country is given higher ranking in other indices. He also added that data sharing and collaboration among government institutions are pivotal to improve efficiency in providing online services to the public. He made this remark at an event held in Colombo yesterday.
The government set up a registering property task force which incorporates stakeholders from relevant government authorities in a bid to simplify regulatory mechanisms in order to streamline the property registering process. The project, which is in line with the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index initiative, is headed by Surveyor General PMP Udayakanta. An event was held in Colombo last evening to inform relevant stakeholders on the initiative. Secretary of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure, Vasantha Deshapriya, delivered the keynote address at the event.
If you look at the Doing Business Index, we are in 111th place out of 190. So this seems to be a paradox. So a lot of global indices show that we are in a better position, but doing business index is placing us in the latter part of the index. Most of the matters which we are lagging behind are the connected government services. They are not just one organization-based services. You need to have systems of many organizations connected electronically, sharing data between all these organizations, working behind the screen and provide the service as one in one interface. This proves that, in a way, government organizations have been very selfish. They do provide their own services. They don't want to collaborate. On the other hand, it shows that you need more than one head of organization to provide this type of solution. And also, then you need another mechanism which could sit on the top of the organizational level, hierarchical setup, and coordinate between all the organization and direct and say that this should be done, this is the path to go.
World leaders at the Bao Forum today spoke out against trade disputes and rising tensions between China and the United States following a week of escalating tariff threats sparked by US frustration with China's trade and intellectual property policies. Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong warned a trade war between China and the United States could not only undermine the multilateral trading system but also have consequences on the security and the stability of the world.
And if the disputes escalate and destabilize US-China relations, the consequences for the world could be catastrophic. There will always be competition between the major powers, but it makes all the difference whether competition takes place within a framework of interdependence and generally accepted rules of the game, because what is ultimately at stake is war and peace, the security and stability of the world.
The dark clouds of protectionism are getting darker. As nations look inwards and turn their backs on globalization, we in Asia confront a strategic choice, whether to follow suit or to script an alternative, more hopeful vision for our future. As home to the majority of the world population, custodian of a large portion of its natural resources, and a conduit for trade by land and sea, Asia continues to demonstrate its growing centrality to the economic order.
And now to bring you a market update, the benchmark all-share price index gained 8.73 points to close at 6,439.83, while the S&P SL20 index, that is, gained 9.63 points to close at 6,659.61, including daily trade in positive zone. The turnover was 439.19 million rupees. We have Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange for more details.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 3,014.64 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 199.3 million rupees and foreign sales were 242.74 million rupees.
Time to look at news from around the world. Now, Facebook's chief executive, Mark Zuckerberg, met US lawmakers individually yesterday and told Congress in written testimony that the social media network should have done more to prevent itself and its members' data being misused. His conciliatory tone precedes 2 days of congressional hearings where Zuckerberg is set to answer questions about Facebook user data being improperly appropriated by a political consultancy firm and the role the network played in the 2016 US election.
Facebook Supremo Mark Zuckerberg met US lawmakers individually yesterday and gave Congress a written testimony that the social media network should be more mindful of its members' data being misused and should have done more to prevent it. If Zuckerberg does not provide satisfactory answers this week, Congress is more likely to push new legislation to strictly regulate Facebook. Top of the agenda in the forthcoming hearings will be Facebook's admission that the personal information of up to 87 million users, mostly in the United States, may have been improperly shared with political consultancy Cambridge Analytica. Lawmakers are also expected to press him on a range of issues, including the 2016 election.
US President Donald Trump hit back at the FBI's raid on the offices of his personal lawyer, calling it a disgrace and an attack on the country. Law enforcement acted on a referral from Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who is investigating suspected Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Following the raid, his lawyers said yesterday that officials in New York seized privileged communications between Michael Cohen and his clients, while US media reported that documents regarding a payment to a pornographic actress were also seized.
US President Donald Trump said yesterday that the FBI's raid on the office and home of his personal attorney Michael Cohen was a disgraceful action and a total witch hunt. Law enforcement acted on a referral from Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who is investigating suspected Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Speaking to reporters at the White House, Trump called into question the impartiality of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team.
This is the most biased group of people. These people have the biggest conflicts of interest I've ever seen. Democrats, all, or just about all, either Democrats or a couple of Republicans that worked for President Obama. They're not looking at the other side. They're not looking at the Hillary Clinton horrible things that she did and all of the crimes that were committed.
Now let's take a look at some other emerging stories from around the world.
Syria's UN ambassador yesterday denied that Syria was involved in a suspected chemical weapons attack in Douma, a city near Damascus, and told the United Nations Security Council that Syria did not possess any chemical weapons and condemned their use. Syria blamed Israel for an attack by unidentified warplanes on a Syrian airbase near Homs yesterday that killed at least 14 people, including Iranian personnel. Meanwhile, Russian UN ambassador said yesterday that Moscow has warned the United States of grave repercussions if it carries out an attack against Syrian government forces. Environmental authorities and security forces of Argentina struggled to save a humpback whale that was stranded yesterday. Rescuers have been working around the clock to try to save the whale since it was spotted on Saturday by locals. Chile has raised the alert on its massive Chillán volcano after plumes of white smoke and registered tremors were reported by authorities. Chillán is one of the most active volcanoes in the country and has been on a yellow alert since 2015. But in recent days, the country's emergency body has detected unusual flows of lava in one of Chillán's 17 craters, with some 4,000 tremors and about 800 explosions of smoke and gas being reported.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Time for sports. Sri Lankan prospects continue to grow in the 21st Commonwealth Games currently underway in Australia. With the country's weightlifters putting in a resplendent performance at the Games, today's spark came in the boxing ring, with Sri Lanka being guaranteed a medal with only its colour to be determined. It was a good day for Sri Lanka in the boxing ring as Tivanka Ranasinghe advanced into the semi-finals of the men's 46 to 49 kilogram category. He defeated a counterpart from Vanuatu, a South Pacific Ocean nation. Tivanka is guaranteed a medal irrespective of whether he wins the semi-final or not, since both fighters not to advance into the final are guaranteed a bronze. Although his medal is not officially confirmed, Tivanka Ranasinghe will become the first Sri Lankan boxer to secure a medal at the Commonwealth Games in 68 years. Moving on to women's sprinting, Sri Lanka's Rumeshika Ratnayaka made it into the semi-finals of the 200 metres after coming second in Heat 2 of the Round 1 races. She clocked 23.43 seconds. In the meantime, there was success for Sri Lankan badminton players Hasini Ambalangodage and Niluka Ratnayaka. They recorded wins in both women's and men's first-round matches today. Moving on to the Indian Premier League, Sunrisers Hyderabad galloped to a comfortable win over Rajasthan Royals last evening in Hyderabad. Sunrisers ran away with a 9-wicket victory with 25 deliveries left in the innings.
Sunrisers Hyderabad won the toss and put Rajasthan Royals into bat. Royals, looking a shadow of their former might, looked fragile as wickets stumbled. The only man to make an impression was Sanju Samson with a 42-ball 43. In 20 overs, Royals could only muster 125 runs for the loss of 9 wickets. Chasing 126, Sunrisers were far from troubled and they brought up the win in emphatic style with 9 wickets in the bag along with 25 deliveries. Opener Shikhar Dhawan played an unbeaten knock of 78 while Kane Williamson chipped in with 36 not out.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Katrina Chang is at the Other Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Now, temperatures will range between 20 and 31 degrees Celsius over the course of the day, with a low pressure zone expected in the vicinity of Sri Lanka. Now, if you take a look at the map, you can see that there will be high precipitation zones, particularly in the central as well as the western region of the island, and will develop over the course of the day and will spread towards the eastern coastal belt. Now, this means we can expect some wet weather in most parts of the island, particularly in the northern region where thundershowers can be expected in the cities of Jaffna as well as Mullaitivu as well as Trincomalee. And however, moving downwards, we can expect some thundershowers in the cities of Kandy, Colombo and Galle. That is it from your weather centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
And that's it from all of us right here at First and 9. And before we go, we'd like to take you down the Devil's Staircase, a 14-kilometre stretch of road that connects Ohia and Kalupahana. One of the most difficult yet beautiful routes to cross in Sri Lanka, the Devil's Staircase is famous among daredevil trackers and hikers. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.